started, shall we? Welcome back to Tabletop RPG Time. Tonight we are playing My Encoding Overloaded? Question mark? No, it shouldn't. Tonight we are playing Magnus in the Corner of the Frame. No, we're actually playing Dredge, which is a solo tabletop RPG about dredging a lake. So, the little blurb that the game gives you is, you are the lone captain of a small, sturdy boat, drifting through a lake so immense it's often mistaken for an ocean. This lake is known as the Ring Waste. It is full of dangers, mysteries, and things that should very much not be found in a lake. As you sail through the Ring Waste. I keep saying Ring Waste. There's only one R in there. As you sail through the Ring Waste, you periodically stop and sink a chain mesh net deep into its waters, sometimes recovering unusual items from the murky depths. You don't remember why you do this. In fact, you don't remember much of anything at all. As soon as your ship left harbor, your head grew foggy and muddled, keeping only bits and pieces of your previous life. However, you remember three things with vivid clarity. You must survive the Ring Waste. You must cast your net. And you must find docks. So, we will need a deck of cards, like so, with the blank card removed and the jokers removed. So let me rifle through the deck here to grab the other joker. We'll give this a shuffle or two. It was already nominally shuffled from last time, but we're going to give it a shuffle or two anyway. You need a marker to indicate the player's boat, a marker to show the deep hunter's position, and a journal or somewhere to write, better known as the camera we're speaking to. Library, I don't know what you're eating, but I don't think you should be. Hey, sir? What are you eating? Don't. Stop eating that. Are you gonna make me get up? You're gonna make me get up. You're gonna make me get up. Thank you. I love my cats. I do. They're wonderful little companions. They're sweet little men. But I swear they give me a coronary sometimes. It's like, I'm gonna eat this. I'm gonna eat this upholstery foam. I'm gonna eat this chunk of cardboard. I'm gonna eat the wires that make your stream work. Never mind that I have perfectly good food. Never mind that I have perfectly good enrichment. You know. Which, admittedly, I could do a little better about enriching them. I will freely admit, there is only so much time in the day, and these two really only respond to active playtime. I can't just set something down that sits there and spins for them to chase. So admittedly, I could maybe do a little better about enriching them. That would kind of be a fun, stream. I would have to, be wearing socks for that, but that'd be kind of fun. Have the table cam up and just fold the table down and just play with the cats for a while. That'd be kind of a fun, chat stream. Anyway, setup. We will be writing our cargo list in the chat, so we can remember what's thing. Remove the Ace of Spades from the deck and place it face up in front of you. Ace of Spades. This will serve as the harbor, the starting point for the game. Then separate the kings from the deck. You're lucky I don't have a very good memory game, or this would entail a lot of shuffling. Separate the kings from the deck and take two of them at random from the pile. Do not look at these kings. Draw 21 more cards from the deck and add those two kings. You then shuffle those 21 cards and lay them out face down in a 4x6 grid, using the Ace of Spades as the bottom right corner, And finally, you place the player marker on the ace of spades. So I plan on using the player marker as the d6, as is tradition. And I will be using the d4 for the other marker we will eventually need in the game. So those are the two kings we're keeping. These two get to go over here. We draw 21 cards from the deck and intersperse the kings randomly. I should have been counting. My brain is very shaped tonight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. And we have placed the kings semi-randomly. Like I said, my memory is not good enough to recall exactly where the kings are. So we then use the ace of spades as the bottom right corner. Let me see my table cam here so we can see how far we can go. And then we need to go 6 cards up and 4 across. Or whichever better fits. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going with 4. We're going to scooch this back a little further and hopefully not break anything. 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So this is the Ring Waste Lake. This is where we are dredging. And this, unfortunately, is where we are going to be finding all sorts of unsettling horrors. Every round, we take our player marker and move it to an adjacent card. We turn the card face up if it is face down and find its description in the prompt section and carry out any effects listed and exposit for a little while. Some cards will provide you with items you've trolled up from the depths, and we have to write those items into our cargo list in chat. When the first king in the grid is revealed, a malevolent being known as the Deep Hunter notices your presence and begins to pursue you. Find the king's prompt in the Deep Hunter's prompt list to learn what is chasing you. Regardless of where you are, place the Hunter token on the Ace of Spades when we reveal the first king. Once the Deep Hunter arrive, every time you move your marker, move the Deep Hunter 1 space toward you in the most direct route possible, traveling only over cards that are already revealed. If there's only one path to the player's marker, the Deep Hunter will move toward that path. If the Deep Hunter catches you, you must give up one of the items in your cargo list or you die. If you sacrifice an item, move the Deep Hunter to any space you choose and create a journal entry detailing how that item helped you escape. Once the Deep Hunter is on the board, the second remaining king becomes the dock, the goal to escape. You must reach the dock with at least 5 items or every card on the board revealed to win. If you reach the second king card without one of those requirements, the gameplay continues until you return to the card with the requirements met, or the Deep Hunter catches you for the last time when you're out of items. Once you reach the dock and meet the requirements, read the final card prompt found in the Mysteries of the Dock's prompt list to end the game and unearth a mystery about the waters that you have traversed. Each prompt contains a final question which you may ponder or create another journal entry to answer. So, hi, Library, having decided to join us, I believe we can get started here. I'm going to have to be playing. I can't see anything until about here, because someone has decided it is lap time. Haven't you? Yes. He said, you have not loved me all day, and so I am right here. Okay. You can be right here. I'll allow it. But you gotta be okay with getting dad views. Yeah. You gotta be okay with being on camera if you're gonna be right there. So I'm immediately gonna move one card diagonally, where we will find the 7 of clubs. So we depart from the docks today, our first day of sailing in a long while. We were pinned down at the docks from a great deal of storm, and we are just now getting back out there trying to dredge up something, anything that will bring our memory back to us. And the first thing we find as we drop our net is the souls of the lost. A bird white with spots of black swoops overhead. You remember something. You heard once that birds like this one are the souls of sailors who died at sea, bound to a feathery form and forever tossed in the winds that once guided them home. The ring waste is no sea, but you wonder if the same fate befalls those who lose themselves to its murky depths. So as we immediately drop our net, hoping to catch something, we don't quite do so. But once the net is underway, dredging correctly, our eyes gaze skyward, and we catch a glimpse of a small spotted albatross wheeling its way over the over the unsettling gray waters of the ring waste, and from within the haze of our mind rises the reminder that these birds are rumored to have been souls of lost sailors, and we hope that we do not find ourselves in an avian state quite so soon. We hope that the ring waste will be kind to us as we continue to search uh, introspectively considering what sort of bird we might wind up as. The next thing we find is the 5 of clubs, a new sky. The old phrase echoes through your mind. Red sky at morning, sailors take warning. But you're not really sure what to do when you wake up and the sky is a vibrant, unnatural purple. You hope it's a good sign. It reminds you of flowers. If the deep hunter has arrived, move it as many cards to the right as possible. So we have an uneventful day of trawling. We occasionally pull up the net and find nothing, which is strange because usually the ring waste is constantly spitting out things for us to look at and examine and be boggled by. But today has been so dry that we drop anchor and we go down to sleep. And when we wake up the next morning, the sky is an unnatural violet purple. So much so that that several things on the deck seem to glow with this dark purple light, and weirdly, something about this light penetrates the gray water of the ring waste, and for a moment we think we see something that's a flash of some kind of predatory eyes, but we look again and nothing is there. And we'll sail on to find the 8 of hearts. What's the 8 of hearts? It's daytime and the waters are calm as always. It's daytime and the waters are calm as always. It's daytime and... Wait, haven't you seen that rock jutting just out of the water before? How long have you been here? Have the waters always been this still? You turn the boat in the opposite direction. If the deep hunter has arrived, move it 1 card closer to your marker. It's difficult to navigate here on the ring waste because it is not because the sky is so often clouded or fogged in such a way that we have no way to, wayfind beyond knowing that the sun rises in the east and comes down in the west. We have no indication of our heading, any sort of speed, this lake extends so far. The moment that the docks fade away into a point, we have practically no sense of where we are. This inland sea uh, wears at our soul as we continue to bob in the water, sliding past a rock once, twice, a third time before we finally recognize it as one of the few landmarks that we could see around here. And we sail on. Actually, I'm going to roll a d4. I'm going to roll the d4 to pick a random direction. I know it didn't say to do this, but I'm going to. Because we're lost. I rolled a 3, so 1, 2, 3. We're going to move here. The 9 of diamonds. Spades, clubs. Diamonds. Here we are. The 9 of diamonds. You're not generally prone to seasickness. You remember that much. But this day your head swims and your stomach heaves. It's a miserable affair that takes up most of your attention, leaving you weak and strained through the day and into the night. It is the early hours of dawn when you manage to at last catch a bit of sleep. As the prompt says, we barely get the net back down into the water before our head starts to swim, and everything seems to be swaying opposite the way we think we should be atop the waves. There is a long... There's a long moment where we struggle to remember... There's a long moment where we struggle to remember whether we are prone to this sort of seasickness. Maybe it's par for the course, but after a long time, we sit there and we puzzle out that we wouldn't be so comfortable running this boat if we had this sort of horrible seasickness all the time. But even despite that, even despite the realization that we really shouldn't be this seasick, our stomach continues to heave with every motion that we try to make, and so we get nothing done that day. We just go and lie down, a wet towel over our eyes, and try to breathe through our nose, trying to cut off any sense of movement that we have in such a way that our stomach will calm. But it lasts all day, even despite our best efforts. Sail right over here and find the ace of clubs. What'd that mean? The ace of clubs, a ghostly present. It is a ghostly presence, rather. It is midnight, by your estimation, when you see it. A figure hovering silently over the water far behind you. With some hesitation, we turn the boat, erasing some of our previous progress, and get a better look. The figure is translucent and flowing, a person wearing a dress with many layers and folds. We almost catch a glimpse of their expression before they fade, but you're not quite certain what we see. You take a guess at their intentions and cast your net. You dredge up something broken and discarded, write down what the item is on your cargo list. So as the prompt says, the seasickness finally passes us, and we come up to the deck, head still a-swimming, and we shake off the last few dregs of this seasickness, and distantly we see a small glowing beacon. We kind of squint and lean forward and hastily look for our little sea glass, and after enough time, we managed to get the glass in front of our eye, and the little speck of light resolves. The little speck of light resolves into a floating person, dressed in an affair that has far too many layers for being this close to the water. The various petticoats drip with the freshwater foam that strikes at their feet. And good heavens, I'm dropping frames like I mean it tonight. Um, the freshwater foam, tangled in with pieces of seaweed, buffets at their feet as they hover a few inches above the water, and they look distraught. Their face is deadly pale, their lips having turned blue from the lack of oxygen, we assume, as we wheel the boat around and, against our better judgment, approach this ghostly form. Okay. We approach the ghostly form, and as we sail, we take a moment to breathe and make sure that we are not a ghost ourselves. And thankfully, the familiar heave of our chest brings the humid air into our lungs, and we sigh with relief in the recognition that we remain alive despite everything that's happened on this lake. And for some reason or another, we feel compelled to drop the net and dredge over where this thinly flickering, ghostly form lies. As we approach, it simply fades away, our hand passing through it like so much mist in the air, and we pull our net out of the water and find within it something broken. What's something broken, do we think? I have an idea. We pull up what seems to be the remains of a much overused drop spindle. The porcelain, or not the porcelain, uh, the stone winding area along the outside has cracked in half, and it takes us a while to mend those two pieces together around the main center of the spindle, and tattered around this rotted piece of wood is some matted molding wool. So we will write in our cargo list, broken drop spindle, haunted. And we'll move on. We find the two of diamonds. Thankfully, we have not stirred the predator from its slumber quite yet. Wind tossed. Wind whips your face as the waters foam around your boat. You see an immense column of water rise into the sky. It's a tornado forming into the lake itself. You close your eyes and brace yourself. It is all you can do. If the Deep Hunter has arrived, move it to the Ace of Spades. The Deep Hunter has not arrived, but we still, we hear a sound like a freight train coming, barreling down at our face, and the sky has gone from that beautiful purple to a steely silver to a horrifying greenish gray. And we look around in panic, knowing that these are the telltale signs of a windstorm most foul, and very nearby, the wind begins to spin and howl with an incredible force, and down, down, down from the wall of clouds that comprises the sky reaches a finger of destruction, spinning with wind beyond anything reasonable. This has been known to rip entire houses to kindling and throw pieces of straw through a tree larger than a man. And we know that being out on this lake, the most we can do is get inside the cabin, tie ourselves down, and hope. And we do so through the little porthole that we can see out of this finger of the gods traces a slow line across the lake. It's picked up no shortage of frogs and fish and aquatic debris. But one thing for a long moment we thought we saw was a maw full of horrifying teeth. But we shake our head and look closer, and that flash is gone. And it's merely just standard ocean detritus at this point. And it passes far enough beyond the boat that we are not flung too far anywhere else. But we do want to heave sails and tack engine as far away from this thing as we can. And so we do. Unfortunately, we find the first king, meaning we have found the hunter. So give me the prompt for this. Oh no, we don't have a prompt for the hunter. It's just the hunter. The hunter has found its way onto our scent, and it starts at the docks, I believe. Correct? As we are attempting to sail away from as we were attempting to sail away from this force of nature that is so clearly willing to rip us to shreds, we see distantly that the tornado has worked its way all the way back to the docks, and despite being far too far away from the docks to see anything, we still have our glass trained. See anything of consequence, we should say. We still have our glass trained on where the docks should be, and as the tornado finally spins to a halt and kind of slowly deteriorates, we see falling from the top of the wind spout a horrific beast, all tentacles and gleaming maw and eyes full of red hatred. And we know that this thing, whatever it is going to attempt to devour us as hard as it possibly can. And so now it moves in concert with us to try and get to us as fast as possible. And we continue to look around, finding that for now the hunter remains far out of our view, but the next morning we hear a mysterious sound. In the morning we hear something peculiar, a cricket chirp. You're far from any land, so this seems quite out of place. You attempt to ignore it for some time, but after a few hours of non-stop chirps, you decide to search the boat for the little creature. You scour the vessel from bow to stern, but don't find the bug. The chirping remains constant, not growing any louder or softer. Just as you resign yourself to a life of sleepless nights, the noise stops, and we find that we miss it. If the deep hunter has arrived, move it one card closer to your marker. So as we go about our day, in hopes that we see none of this horror that seems to be bearing down on us, we hear this little chirp as though it's sitting on our shoulder over and over. And we tear the boat apart, practically ripping our mattress off of its frame, hurriedly shaking out every blanket we can find, opening and closing every cabinet as fast as we can, and practically speaking, tear the boat apart, looking for whatever this thing that's beeping is. And by the time we finally accept it and it kind of resolves into the background noise of our life, as we continue to go about our daily tasks, we find that the beeping has finally stopped, and now the silence is deafening. We hear nothing. Not even the lapping of the water against the boat. No wildlife, no splashing, nothing. It is completely silent. I have cornered myself. Uh-oh. Because, unless this, or this are the end game, but I don't have any items, so I lose. Look at this. So, it has to move, the hunter has to move as closest to us as it can. So if I were to move here, it moves here, I have no escape. If I were to move here, it moves here, I have no escape. I have painted myself into a corner, so we will move here and see what happens. We find the 6 of clubs. And the hunter moves closer. Spades. These are lovely prompts, but they're very slow to scroll through with a mouse. 6 of clubs, toad. You feel a jolt as something catches your boat, and suddenly you are traveling 3 times as fast, zipping forward like a deer fleeing a hunter. You're not entirely sure the cause of this boost of speed, but you're content to let it happen. Toward the end of the day, your vessel finally slows down. As you strain to see what it was that dragged your boat along, you just barely catch the point of a large scale sliding back down into the depths. So, we awaken our eyes on the lookout for any sign of that dread being that that has been haunting our dreams and unknowingly haunting the boat itself as well. And so when we see the a glimpse of a large shadow approaching us, we immediately panic and dive for a hastily loaded harpoon gun. But as we are raising it to fire, the boat suddenly lurches, and the engine screams as the propeller is driven the opposite direction from the sheer force of whatever is pulling us along. And we immediately drop the harpoon gun and rush toward the engine to turn it off to make sure it doesn't burn itself to pieces against the strain. And we seem to move even faster, screaming across the lake. And for a long moment, we feel as though we should have tied ourselves down, or we're going to be blown away from the wind of this thing pulling us along. And as we're just about ready to resign ourselves to being pulled into the raising lake bed in front of us, we come to an abrupt halt. Everything in the ship bangs against its lashings, including us, and we see a large-scaled fin disappear beneath the waves. And we know that whatever that was, it likely just saved us from a horrific death. And we will move here and find the 6 of spades. You'll have to excuse me if you know what you're doing with a boat. I am not nautically inclined. A piercing light, a lone lighthouse, towers over the waves. The rocks around its base are too sharp and numerous to approach, You're not sure how anyone could have landed there in the first place, but still, the light pierces through the night sky without end. Reveal any one adjacent card and decide whether or not to carry out the consequences on it. We do, having been drawn so close to the edge of the lake by this massive scaled being, turtle, we're not sure what it is. We continue along the lake shore. Keeping one eye on our depth maps to make sure we don't beach ourselves. And very suddenly we have to lurch off to starboard. Starboard's the right, right? We have to lurch off to the right very suddenly to dodge around a slowly rising upcropping. And on this upcropping, full of pointed, jagged rocks, is this lighthouse. It practically blinds us every time the beam swings around and catches us in the face, and so we can't look at it very long. But within the beam of the light, we see... What is this? The 7 of Diamonds. Caught in the beam of the light is something that flings us backward in time. Caught in the beam of the light is something that flings us backward in time, our memory beginning to blur. And we find that we have one long moment of recalling what we were before we came out here. We were a parent to a child that had a smile that gleamed almost as brightly as their mother's eyes. And we knew it gave us the greatest joy to find them happy. And the last thing we recall before the memory fades away is that they loved to spot schools of fish, and that's the seeing a school of fish wandering about. We mumble under our breath, "I wonder what they're learning," because that's the joke the kid always made for us whenever we saw a school of fish, and tears begin to fill our eyes, and we and caught in the reverie of this memory, we cry ourselves to sleep. But this catharsis must have done something important for us, because when we rise the next morning, we feel as though we have let go of something that was weighing us down. And we'll move on. And we will find that our way out of here has become clear. Do I get to read the prompt while I don't have enough items? Question mark? That's a rules question, buddy. Once you reach the docks and meet the requirements, read the final card prompt. If you reach the docks without one of the requirements, gameplay continues until you return with the requirements met, or we get caught. Okay, so we find, energized by the lack of memories weighing us down, we find that not far from where we started our journey, we find a place to lash our boat to the shore and get boots on land, get away from whatever horrifying hold this lake has on us. Indeed, we approach the docks and lash our boat. We approach the docks and drop anchor, and we can see a small lakeside town, its windows glittering in the light of that lighthouse as it swings around. Or its windows glittering in the sunset behind us, and we turn to look at the sunset behind us and find that the lake has shrunk somehow. it is now it's now a paddle boat, like in comparison to what it used to be. But we can feel that now is not the time for us to truly step off of land and use the docks. And so we sail on away from the relative safety of the world behind us. And find the 8 of clubs. Spades. Eight of clubs, something dreadful. There's blood in the water here. You aren't sure of its source. No flesh or bones bob in the water. No broken wood signals the grave of a boat. But there's enough of it to ice your veins with dread. If the deep hunter has arrived, move it a second card closer to your marker. Indeed, as the prompt says, as we sail on, we find that the water has been dyed a deep purplish red from, frankly, a copious volume of blood. And as we are fleeing from this blood, frantically looking around to make sure there's no floating chunks of wood signaling some boat gone beneath the waves, or looking around to make sure it's not some horrific predator that hadn't finished its meal, we see a glint of we see a glint of a mouth full of teeth, so full of teeth that it seems like an endless gaping maw. The horror is behind us. And we need to flee. Let's hope this card has something for us, or we're going to lose the drop spindle. 2 of hearts. Boiling wastes. The waters grow darker as we sail on, bubbling and hissing in a boiling wave of heat we can feel from up on the boat. Not much can survive in this atmosphere. We're certain of it. And we don't want to be the next living thing to succumb to the cloud of steam. You take a sharp turn out of the area. If the deep hunter has arrived, move it 1 card closer to your marker. As we sail on, finally escaping the cloud of blood that ensconced our boat for a moment far too long, our teeth grit at the smell of dying fish and rotting seaweed, and we resist the urge to plug our nose for a long, long moment as we come up over the swell of a wave and find ourselves in a pit of boiling water. And we've heard tales of this before, that almost nothing can survive the heat of this area. That the local geologists have claimed that this particular spot is some kind of geological formation underneath the lake, spewing heat from deep within the earth. And there's been petitions to halt any kind of boat interaction with it outside of scientific inquests to try and discover what sort of extremophiles can survive in such a caustically hot environment. And as we were pondering over just what could survive in this environment, a mass of wet, sharp tentacles ensconce our boat for a long moment. And as the suckers wheel in front of us, our eyes starting to glaze over as the rings of teeth around these suckers spin slowly, drawing us in. We hear from within the cabin a massive bang, and the world is set alight with that ghostly blue that we saw was comprising that figure floating over the water. And we are flung backwards into the cabin, as this light rushes forward and throws the tentacles of the beast uh, off of our boat, and we are saved from the Deep Hunter for now. The spindle, unfortunately, has weaved its last web, so to speak. As we come to in the cabin, the remains of the spindle are merely a pile of granite sand and a few stray wood splinters. And so we sail on, finding that the 10 of spades is next. Figured I should note the cargo log is empty. Alright, 10 of spades. A message. You see a message in a faded glass bottle bobbing up and down among the waves. With some effort, you manage to hook and reel it in. There is one word on the grimy page. Dig. You do the best thing, casting your net into the brackish blue. You dredge up something ancient and cold. Write down what that item is on your cargo list. As the prompt states, we are heaving a sigh of relief that we have escaped this beast for a few moments longer, thanks to the goodwill of something beyond the plane that we personally inhabit. And so when we see a little glint of light rise from the waves, we are very suddenly heartened, hoping that our ghostly protector has continued to remain within our sights, so to speak. But as the waves bob a second time, we realize that the glinting form resolves into a dark green bottle bobbing along next to our boat. We fish it out with a hand net, and indeed, the only thing on the faded molding parchment that we fish out of the bottle is dig. And we shrug and say, well, dredging is a bit like digging, so we drop a net and pull it along. And the next time we pull it up, we find that there is the remains of an ancient compass. It's a small stone bowl that has a smaller chunk of metallic rock bound to it by a string that falls to dust as we pull it out of the water. And we immediately recognize this as a magnetite compass. And we fill the bowl with a little bit of the lake water, and the rock within the bowl for a long moment settles on a specific direction, and then twitches, and twitches again, and then starts to spin wildly. This compass is useless for navigation, but it may provide us something else useful. As we sail on, we find the Ace of Diamonds. What do we find with the Ace of Diamonds? Oh, mighty oracle tables. 10 stone spires protrude from the water, forming the shape of a crown. The water is still in the center of the ring, emanating a patient atmosphere that causes you to hush. In the center of the rocky pillars, you cast your net. You dredge up something ornate and useless. Write down what that item is on your cargo list. So off in the distance, we see the pillars. First 1, then 3, then 5, then 7, then the last 2 rise from the very end of it, And as we've gotten close enough to see all the pillars, we can tell that these are no ordinary stone pillars. These are carved in a very ornate fashion. Stone leaves creeping up around each of these slightly slanted pillars. And at the top of these pillars are clearly what used to be glittering gemstones, carved in the shape of various fruits. But as we approach closer and closer, we realize that each of these gemstones has long since been encrusted with mineral and ephemera and, to put it bluntly, bird poop that the wildlife have so helpfully deposited all over the remains of a massive crown. We steer our way between two of the pillars and find that the waves have completely halted. There's something about the area we're in that puts all of the waves into a state of stillness. Occasionally one wave breaks through and propagates through this perfectly glassy, still area of the lake. And each time the wave pulsates outward, and as it rings back, off of the pillars, we hear, "Search." A ghostly voice filling our ears. "Search. Look. Find." And we begrudgingly, aware that listening to supernatural voices is probably the only thing that's going to get us out of a supernatural situation, throw down our net and dredge up a what's the thing I'm thinking? I have a very specific thing in mind. We dredge up a small sword. It is made of soft silver, so much so that when we pick it up, it bends. We look at it and look so confused. This is such an ornate decorative piece. What is this doing at the bottom of the ocean? And we fish around in the net, wiping aside various silt and mud and plant life and debris and detritus, and find a small sheath to go around this small sword. And with great care, we bend the sword back into shape and sheath it, hanging it on the wall in front of the ancient compass. We find that the hilt of this small sword has a similarly nature-themed pommel. It is a small acorn. The leaves of the oak curling around the grip and the hand guard. And we can tell that the sword used to be engraved, but that has faded away over time. So we now have an ancient compass that's broken, and a silver small sword, clearly for decoration or fashion. And we sail on, unaware of the horror bearing down on us, as is tradition, and find the Three of Clubs. Flying fish. As you are traveling, you see flits of silver in the air. You turn to see more clearly and realize that they are fish bursting through the surface of the water and catching short, beautiful flashes of sunlight on their scales. The ring waste can be dreadful, but it has its small moments of wonder. If the deep hunter has arrived, move it one way, one card further from your marker. So we will move it one card further from our marker. As we are sailing along, our eyes have sharpened to the specific glint of the horror's teeth, We've seen it one time, and now we know what to look for. And once again, much like the bottle before it, we think we see the glint of these teeth before they resolve into these fish, diving through the small pillars of sunlight that are reaching through the seemingly permanent barrier of clouds over our head. And each time they dive through these shafts of sunlight, they seem to catch them for just a moment and get that little bit of extra hang time. The glittering silver of their scales brings a smile to our face as we sail on, hopeful that we can get out of here before the next glint that we see means our devouring. And as we sail on, we find the 9 of Hearts. This is one of those that I think would be better as a physical booklet, because I'm doing a lot of scrolling, and it's not making my hands happy. The 9 of Hearts, bad luck. You lose your hat in the water here. You remember enough superstition to know that this is an unlucky act. As we sail on, we are so captivated by the glinting silver scales of these flying fish that a gust of wind buffets us in the face, and before we can grab our hat, as it rises from our head, it flips into the ocean, and our mood sours. We know that that's never good luck. It's always awful to have the sun beating down on us, or even the lack thereof. The Ace of Hearts is what we find as we sail on. An unknown archway. In a shallower part of the ring waist, a stony arch curves over the water and ends sinking below visible range. Staring at it, you know that if you were to pass underneath, you would not leave the same person as when you entered. You cast your net over the arch's reflection. This is as close as you are going. You dredge up something fused and unsettling. Write down what the item is in your cargo list. So as we sail on, we're looking around for something, anything to indicate where the horrifying beast could be. And for a long moment, the archway in front of us does not resolve into a recognizable shape. It's like we are so used to staring out into the water and seeing nothing that seeing something feels wrong. And there is an energy that crackles within this archway. It is not immediately visible to us, but we see several times a bird try to drift through it, and the bird comes out disoriented, tinted another color. And we can tell that it is a horrible, horrible idea to pass under that archway unprepared, shall we say. And we instead approach the image of the archway on the water and cast our net into it, hoping to find something that will tell us when and where this beast is going to bear down on us and devour us. And rather than finding something like that, we find a fist-sized chunk of metal in the net. As we reach out to grab it, it seems to pulsate away from our hand. And we try again and again to grab it, and each time it slips further and further out of our hands until it onto the deck. And when it hits the deck, when it is on somewhat of a solid ground, it immediately lets out a horrifying screech and pulsates once, twice, and then very suddenly forms into something completely unrecognizable to us. Looking at it, we seem to be able to look down into it. and we shake our head trying to get out of this thing's thrall, and we realize that this is one of those things we heard about in math class, a fractal. It's self-similar. Never ends. And clearly it's a bad idea to look at. So we set it aside the silver small sword under a small rag so that we don't get whammied by it too often. And we find that immediately the compass stops rotating and points directly at it. Whatever this thing is, it's not good. We should not have pulled it up. But it's too late now. So now we have an ancient compass that is broken. Silver small sword. Decorative. And a metallic fractal. And we sail onward, as usual, unaware of the horror bearing down on us, and find the Jack of Hearts. Oh, bless you, Magnus. I hope you could hear that. Magnus had a little sneeze. You okay, bud? You just sniff a little dust? Yeah. Jack of Hearts. Something old. Dead. A great distance ahead of you, you see something enormous jutting out of the water. It's too smooth to be a cliff and too thin to be a building. As you sail closer, you realize what the towering object is. A giant, worn rib bone, standing just as alone as you are, marking where something powerful died long ago in the ring waste. In the shadow of this giant bone, you cast your net. You dredge up something jagged and curved. Write down what that item is on your cargo list. So, as the prompt says, we come up over a wave, and as we fall down into the trough, we see something thin jutting up out of the water, and for a long moment we think that there is another tornado bearing down on the boat, but the weather's all wrong. And we kind of blink our eyes and raise our glass to our... We raise our glass to see what this is, and as it looms large in the image from the seeing glass, we realize that we recognize this texture. It is a bone. And judging by the shape, it is a rib of something large and horrifying, and something that fought for a long, long time before it finally gave up the ghost, given all of the deep, rutting scars through this bone. And we cast our net in hopes of finding some kind of, some smaller remnant of this thing that may have been a little better preserved to chase off the horror. But instead, all we find is what clearly used to be a sword. It has been beaten into a different shape. It seems to have almost been beaten into a plowshare. But strangely enough, the serrated edge of this sword remains present along the edge of the plowshare, and we hold this large, thin chunk of pitted and rusted metal for a long time, looking at it in confusion. Who would drop a plow blade into a lake like this? I don't understand. And then we finally turn it over and find that this is not a plowshare, it is a shield. For where the handle of this sword used to be is now in the center of this large chunk of metal. And as we slot our hand into this grip and move it around, testing its ability to shield us, the horror catches up with us. And a tentacle rises out of the water, and as it moves to strike us, we feel our arm pulled with an incredible speed, and we just barely hang on to it as it strikes the tentacle away from us, and the shield continues to vibrate in our hand, and eventually we can't hold on to it any longer, and it slips away, and the shield bounces off of the deck once, twice, and that's not a very good splash sound. It slides into the water with an unsettling, unnatural sound. With an unsettling, unnatural sound, and we hear the creature roar as its serrated edge bites. Through a few tentacles on the way down, and we realize that the shield, for now, has saved us from our particularly gruesome fate. So, despite the shield normally having gone into our cargo list, it just saved our tails, so it doesn't get to. And we sail on, ever vigilant for this horror, and find the four of spades, a tremor. A shudder runs through your vessel, almost throwing you off your feet. You search for a sign of the cause, and then for any leak that may have opened up on the boat, but you find nothing. You hope you haven't hit something that might feel anger towards you. As it says, we are white-knuckle gripping the wheel of the boat as we sail along, horrified that this thing is going to catch us before it is far, far too late. And when the boat lurches and shakes beneath our feet, we worry that we struck the creature, and it is and that the water we hear moving is simply making the boat sink. And after a long moment of panicked searching for any sort of leak below decks, we find that the boat remains intact, and hope that whatever we just struck wasn't the same thing that got us out of the jam earlier. And we sail on and on until we find something new. Our mind is almost empty as we approach an ominous hatch. Our mind is almost empty as we continue to sail on, and we drop anchor for a long while to rest. And when our eyes, come back to consciousness, we find that a new hatch has appeared on the floor of the boat. It seems old and worn, like it was there forever, but you're certain that it wasn't there yesterday. Importantly, you notice words painted on top of it. Leave it alone. And so we oblige. Something tells you that only a great power could have made the door so suddenly appear out of thin air, and you're in no position to be getting on the wrong side of any great powers. You keep to yourself throughout the day, though the temptation lingers. The next morning, the door has disappeared, and in its place rests a warm, fully cooked meal. You happily indulge in this, you assume, thank you gift. If the deep hunter has arrived, move it one card away from your marker. Just like the prompt says, which I've been saying a lot this stream. Wow, my captions have completely given up on me. I'm sorry about that. But as the prompt suggests, we come out of our reverie, having taken a long moment to rest after all that, after what felt like days of non-stop sailing, and we kind of rub our eyes in confusion when we first see the hatch. That definitely was not there before. And again, we kind of shake our head and try to clear our vision, wake ourselves up. We even go make some coffee out of the meager reserves that we have, and find, even after the caffeine, that we are wide awake. And yes, that door does look like it's always been there, even though it hasn't always been there. We lean in to inspect it, wondering what could have possibly brought this here for us. and find in very, very small lettering, almost so small that we need to break out a magnifying glass to see it. It says, "Leave me alone." And we go, seems like very accurate instructions, I'd say. I will definitely do what you want, little door. And we nod. And despite the urge to open the door building throughout our mind throughout the day, we manage to resist. And the next time we awake, we walk into the kitchen sleepily, looking for any sort of way to wake ourselves up, and sitting in the kitchen sink so it doesn't roll away with the tilting of the boat. There is a very fancily prepared breakfast. A carefully, what clearly used to be carefully plated slice or two of French toast, and some very thick cut bacon done just as we know we love it, and a few eggs that on a tap with a finger we see are perfectly done over medium. And throughout it all, there is the scent of cloves. And we're wondering where that came from. And as we take in another deep breath, we find that it no longer smells of cloves. Whatever brought it here gave us that smell to remind us of home for just a scant moment. We hastily choke down breakfast and sail on, finding the last card on the board is the 5 of Hearts. As we are sailing on, we are occasionally catching little glimpses of the horror's teeth and its little and occasionally a few small fish carcasses that haven't been eaten so much as dismembered rise, but it doesn't catch up to us quite yet. And that's what feels off today. Well, it might be what feels off today. Something feels off today. We're not sure what at first, only guided by an anxious prickling at the back of our neck. It is midday when you finally lean over the side of the boat and discover the change. The name painted carefully on the side of your boat is different than what it was yesterday. You have no idea how or when the switch happened, but the change is unmistakable. You know this is an omen, but you're not sure if it's fair or ill. For a long moment, we do think that the omen is an ill one. But as we sail on, we find that we have bobbed up to the docks once more. The lake has shrunken in size down to something a little more sensible, and we realize that the boat changing names simply means that it's likely to have another captain very soon. So let us close off this round of Dredge with the prompt for the King of Hearts, where we have found ourselves a way out. King of Hearts, Colossus. Something ancient and vast moves through the water, following the trail of stirred motion your vessel produces. Oh no, that was for the, we were supposed to read the King of Clubs for what's pursuing us. Oops. Well, now it is revealed that the thing following us was merely a conspiracy nut. A person following our trail, plunging deep into the water to pursue us in a way that is beyond human. You've heard them knocking on the hull of the boat. You've seen messages carved jaggedly into rocks and wood. You know that they wanted us dead. And as we lash our boat to the dock and step off, we realize that each time we saw those tentacles, they weren't as material as we thought. Each time we moved to react against them, in hindsight, looking back now, there was nothing there. They were practically ghosts. Somehow, some way, this inhuman diver that has been keeping us in his thrall this whole time convinced us that we were actually under attack by some form of kraken. But that wasn't what was happening. Unfortunately for them, we found our way out before the fingers of their illusion buried themselves too far in our own brain. And let's see what we find at the docks, shall we? The King of Hearts, the search. You remember now, finally. This hallowed lake, the ring waste, this is the new body of that ancient myth, the river Styx. You were dredging up lost things in the river of death. Every item is tied to a person. Who or what were we searching for? The moment we step on the docks, both the knowledge of what had been chasing us and what we were here for fills our mind. And after we experience just why we were being hounded by some man we can reasonably assume, in hindsight, to be some form of the boatman Sharon, we realized that yes, we were finding our way through a modern Styx, looking for the one last piece of our family. The ancient compass calls our mind back and back and back to our ancestors. Our family has been a boating family for since time immemorial, and so this ancient compass is a relic of an ancestor whose name is lost to the sands of time, but one who was known for their pioneering spirit nonetheless. And the silver smallsword, our mind flashes back to it, and we realize that one of the few exceptions to the rule of our family being a sailing family was when someone decided to become a rather wealthy landowner, and this smallsword was in fact theirs. They had an elaborate coat of arms based upon the bounty of their lands drawn up, and the motif of the ever-fruiting vines became something of a family trademark for that specific ancestor of ours. And so that small sword, decorative as it was theirs. And presumably, the crown that rises from the lake was some form of punishment for them, because they were no angel. And finally, the metallic enthralling fractal casts our mind forward and forward and forward, past countless generations beyond the child that we brought into the world, to a future that makes no sense to our eyes. All we see is someone with our eyes and our child's mother's nose, wielding some kind of ball of light as a ship wheels amongst the stars. And we realized that we were looking through this river of souls forgotten and damned to find a purpose for ourselves. Despite everything going as it should have in our life, we felt like that we were just going through the motions. Everything was just happening to us. Certainly we had, the highs and lows of our emotions, but it all felt distant, dull. And so we were looking for that little piece of ourself that died somewhere along the way, in hopes that the Styx would keep track of pieces of people to go with the whole, but we realized that the happiness we were searching for, we should have searched for in life, not death. It's too late now, but at least those we left behind remain. Okay, that's Dredge. Very good card game. Very, very good card game. I love that it has an out for if you do not find the right amount of items, because not every prompt gives you an item. So I love that it has an out for you not having having enough items. It specifically includes a contingency for if you don't have enough items but you need to finish the game, you just need to finish filling out the board. It doesn't turn into, what Crypt Keeper was, where we had to keep doing floors over and over and over again to try and approach a win. It allows you, having cleared the whole board, to be a win condition. That's something that Borealis didn't do either, that I think Borealis would really benefit from, because I was sitting there not having done my math right on the numbers and just over and over again throwing myself at this giant cat for Borealis. And I think Borealis could really benefit from, instead of having numbers clear the whole board as an option, to clear all but one space on the board or something. Or this could benefit from having a specific set of numbers on the board, I think. I think those rules could be in either place. But given the theming of this game's story, now that we know kind of what at least one of the prompts was at the end, I think the tale of charting this entire lake is very poignantly, it's very on the nose, that you have seen everything you need to see, and so you have completed your journey storytelling wise. So we still have 2 more kings here, and we have at least 21 cards, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So we will shuffle those kings into this deck, and we will lay out another board. But before we do that, I want to do something a little different. And I want to make myself a little drink. I have been slowly but surely learning bits and pieces of some cocktails, and I want something nice to drink to go with this second game. So I'm going to mix myself up a little Tom Collins type thing. I have some non-alcoholic gin, and we're going to need the Ace of Spades for the bottom corner here, which I put here somewhere. Here we are. But I'm going to mix up a little drink. I'm going to put up the... Do I have text on this screen, or do I just need to tilt my camera? I'm going to tilt my... Okay, fair warning, I just made dinner. My kitchen is a mess. But I'm going to tilt the camera so you all can see me. And I'm going to make myself a little drink. I need this. My gin of choice. It is 0 proof, promise. I need the shaker cup. I need a cup to drink out of. I will go with this pint glass, actually. And then I need my measurer, which is here somewhere. Here we are. So this is my take on a Tom Collins. Tom Collins traditionally is like a lime juice, lemon juice, citrus juice type thing with simple syrup and like one or two other things. Usually an herb of some kind. But this is my take on it. I do every now and again a kind of preserved lime thing. I've talked about it at length before. Where is it? This guy. Essentially, I just take limes and slice them very thin and add sugar by weight, equal weight, and they produce their own syrup, and they're very good for cocktails and other things you want to taste sweet and limey. And so that's kind of my take on this. Is I fish a couple of limes out of the jar there, and they bring a little syrup with them, and then I put a measure of the gin and also some ice in there. Give it a little shake and top it off with tonic water, which I will be leaving in the fridge until I am done making this. So, first and foremost, we get to enjoy... Really? We get to enjoy me dropping ice all over the floor. This ice decided to pre-crush itself, so you don't have to worry about very loud sounds. Yeah, something about this... Oops. I just dropped an ice cube onto the cat. Magnus immediately jumped up in this chair, which I don't know if you saw. But why did I throw that away? I should have put them in the sink. Anyway. Whew, my brain's on a spin. Everybody. I want to fish that other one out of the garbage can so it doesn't rust my garbage can. Sorry. This is a part of the stream I did not think about. I'm improvising. Okay. So we need... Well... We will call the two most intact cubes too big, and a little handful of these ice shards too little. But I don't know, I just wanted to... I don't know what put me in the mood for a nice little drink, but... Of course, that is completely in fact. I am spilling ice shards all over the floor. Anyway, that's ice handled. Let us mix this the rest of the way, shall we? Spoon. For the limes. Yeah. We will throw a few lime slices in the shaker. Candied lime slices? Sheong lime slices? Which I am most assuredly pronouncing this wrong, but the technique for these limes, I am inspired by a traditional Korean technique called sheong, where you take something that has water in it and add sugar, and because sugar go burr in the presence of things that have water, it kind of produces its own syrup. Better known to some people, cocktail people, as oleosaccharum. Kind of the same sort of thing, muddled, thin citrus. Let's see here. I need this. Oh, very good gin, this. Ounce and a half? Ounce and a half sounds correct. But if this remains a fixture, mixing a drink like this, I mean, I would love to do kind of a spotlight on various low alcohol, zero proof, shall we say, cocktails. Okay, we shake up to mix and cool and potentially add a little water, depending on your persuasion. With such small measures, you know, the shaking is really not much. But we'll toss a little ice in the glass, which is in frame on the table at least. We'll give this a couple more shakes. Loosen the cap, which I shouldn't have done because I wanted to filter this. It's too late. I guess we could just put it back down and shake it more. There we go. That definitely didn't get lime syrup all over my floor. Then we will take the tonic water. Yoink. And we will open the shaker. And pour this boy. And then top with tonic. And I believe we have ourselves something akin to a Tom Collins. And we'll leave a little bottle of tonic water nearby. We'll also stir this real quick. Just to make sure it's incorporated correctly. Here we are. Very good. Now we have a little drink to go with our game here. Excuse me, Magnus. Scoot your butt. Optionally, you could garnish this with a few more of those candied limes. Personally, I'm just going to be a little gurgling and fish them out of the shaker. But if I were doing this at a party or something, I would not go full goblin and wrangle the little limes out of the shaker. I'd just put more limes in there. There's one more. Alright, well, I'm leaving that last lime in there. That's a treat for you, Michael. Alright. Now we've got our fun little drink. Let us play again, shall we? Good heavens, my internet is waving all over the place. Two, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Absolutely Promeo. Even if you're not going to use it in a cocktail, I heartily suggest the lime syrup. Very good. But the thing about the lime syrup is it's really, really good in conjunction. I counted wrong. Uh, with something else. You know, you don't just get limeade, you get cherry limeade, you know? Um, oh, so good. Uh, that gin, I will show you the bottle, but not the logo for promotional purposes. Very pretty bottle. Look at this like Art Deco thing going on. It's got like the lines and everything. Very pretty. I will not lie. I saw it on the shelf. I was looking at non-alcoholic uh, non-alcoholic spirits, and I saw this gin on the shelf, and I went, "That's very pretty. I need that right now." I'm already a known enjoyer of gin. I like botanicals, and I like juniper. So I saw that and went, I must have it. Anyway, let's begin. So we find ourselves once again on a boat, now as a different person in a different time and in a different place, but it is still the ring wraith, and it is doing our best to wring our soul out of our body as we carry on here, and we sail off into the ring waste and find the Queen of Clubs. Sorry, I'm going to make a little noise every time I drink that. That's so good. Good every time. Admittedly, it's pretty good with just the tonic and the lime, but like the gin adds, notes. Anyway, immediately as we sail off, we find a moment of calm and peer over the side of the boat into the water below. You see a face looking back up at you. Not your face exactly. Rather something that's taken your features and twisted them. The grin is eerily sharp, the eyes more bloodshot than yours have ever been. It's hard to tear your gaze away. The face that is not your own, it whispers something to you. You can't hear it from where you are, but you know it's something important, something lovely and deep, some secret that only you yourself could know. And you decide to cast your net here. We look down at the water, uh, concerned that we're going to find something. I did not mean to look at that card. Or I'll forget it by the time we get there. Concerned that we are going to find something staring back at us that we are not ready for. And indeed, our concern is well placed as we find immediately our heart pounding, racing, as not our face looks up from the water. We expected to see our own face looking up from the water, in the reflection, in the calm water. But instead, there is something that has eyes a little too big, teeth a little too sharp, hair a little too long and billowing around its head. It reaches up with fingers that have one too many joints and move with an unnatural smoothness. And as it's about to touch along our jawline, we startle back and hear a whisper fill our ears in a language we don't know. But we know that at the end of the day, it means that we should look here, and we fumble with a few levers, and our net drops here, and it comes back up, and buoyed out of the depths is something forbidden and decayed. So, cargo list. What do we find that's forbidden and decayed? I think I have something fun. We find a log. And initially, as we look at this log, we go, oh, it's just a log. Everything's fine. But the longer we stare at it and the more we observe the little details, like the way the grain spins spins in a slow spiral as it climbs up the uh, up the log itself, around which the bark has rotted away, but the wood itself remains. And we realize this is in fact something forbidden, in that it is a tree that has been long extinct, and there has been a severe amount of conservation effort put in to try and preserve the remaining tissue samples for botanical research and mostly DNA sampling. But we also know that there is a market for those who have deep pockets and small egos that want to use this rare, ever-dwindling wood for decoration of any kind. Extinct preserved log. Even worse, as we haul it aboard and shuffle it back into our cargo bay, we realize that this has cuts into it. There used to be crossbarring, indicating that this was a mast of a ship that has long since fallen. Okay, let's continue on. We sail further into the ring waste and find the Six of Hearts. Also, Kevo, I love the little, like, shaky guy, like the little shaky dude emote that you sent. I'm just, like, occasionally looking up at chat, and I just see, I'm like, this is great. This is the exact thing I want to be invoking right now. Very good. It's a good emote. I don't know where you found it, but it's very good. The Six of Hearts tells us that we find discomfort. We spend the day hungry, distracted, and uncomfortable, plagued by an itch that will not go away. If the Deep Hunter has arrived, which it has not, it remains off the board, move it one card closer to your marker. So, we've not been sailing long, and as we are staring out over the water, the waves slowly lapping against our boat as the engine chugs behind us. The gray of the water and the gray of the sky blur together, and for a long moment we lose ourselves, just staring, swaying, and eventually we manage to snap out of it. And when we have, we realize that it has been hours. We have not eaten. We have not moved from this very spot, rooted on the deck, staring at a world that blurred until it lost all detail. Yeah, staring at a world that blurred until it lost all detail. We found that we have been a little too focused on what we're seeing and not what we're doing. And as we shake our head to clear it, we realize that we've drifted into the next space on the ring ray. Nine of Spades, a trap set. Here you see rusted metal spikes rising out of the water. You aren't sure of their purpose at first, until you look carefully at where they sink into the water. You think you might catch sight of some sort of net woven between the poles? made from what looks like a thick rope. It's deep enough not to affect your boat, and you realize that this barrier must have been made to stop something deep in the water from passing. You take your chances passing over the web yourself. If the deep hunter has arrived, it hasn't, move it 1 card away from your marker. We come up... I keep saying we come up over a rise. No, that's Borealis. We rise over the trough of a wave, and in the distance see a series of metal spikes. And as they loom closer and closer into vision, as we sail closer and closer to them, we see that there is a massive interconnected rope a massive interconnected net made of ropes as large as our 2 clenched fists or larger. And we realize that it floats in the water beneath the waterline of most boats, so it's there to catch something a little more foul. Speaking of something a little more foul, we happen upon the King of Diamonds and find that the thing chasing us fills our mind. King of Diamonds, cursed vessel. A decaying ship much larger than your boat follows you through the ring waste. What fills you with dread is the way it moves. It glides eerily quickly, under the water itself, with only an overgrown crow's nest breaching the surface. You've never seen any shadowed shapes manning the vessel below, but you haven't exactly gotten a good look, and most of it's too far down to properly see. Nevertheless, it trails after you. Sometimes, in the dead of night, the creaking of wood and screaming of rusting metal pierces your ears, waking you up, and you must quicken your pace to escape the ghostly pursuer. Indeed, although the place we set off from is a bit far away, we can see through a spyglass the gentle green glow of this crow's nest. And we put 2 and 2 together. The image of a ghostly ship gliding beneath the water with its crow's nest poking above like some sort of horrific spectral periscope is in fact that dot we see on the horizon, and it's getting closer. And as we sail away, trying to escape this dread vessel, we find the 2 of clubs. Nostalgia. A memory returns to you. Warmth, someone you care about, daylight and laughter. You strain for more, but these flashes are all that you receive. Still, it's a comfort. You know you mustn't stay here forever. You will leave the ring waste, you tell yourself. And now it seems that perhaps you have somewhere to return to. If the deep hunter has arrived, move it 1 card away from your marker. As we are sailing, we see along the shore that grows in front of our boat, we see a small bush laden with bright red fruit. And we bring a glass to our eye to observe this, see if it's something we can, interact with and have a little more sustenance than just the freeze-dried meals we brought along, and find that it is a small pomegranate bush. And immediately we are drawn back into our memory. And one moment, I have a coaster here somewhere. I just noticed that, and it's gonna drive me bonkers that there's a condensation ring. But let me continue to exposit while I look. So we are drawn back further and further into our memory until we realize that it is the image of this pomegranate bush that is forcing us to remember. That doesn't matter. That's a part good thing too. Anyway, doesn't matter. we're drawn back into our memory and realize that we have, despite our mostly amnesia, a very, very fond memory of picking fresh pomegranates from the bush outside our home as a child, and finding that cutting them open, finding that on cutting them open, that our hands were stained a deep, dark purple that felt impossible to get out. And for many years, we just kind of put up with that purple stain on our fingers until someone came along in our life, someone we have, someone that makes our heart flutter as we remember them. Reminding us that there is another option. You can just put the pomegranate underwater and it doesn't look like a murder scene every time you open it. And we sail on, the warm glow of nostalgia patting the cold air away from us, and find the 8 of Spades. Huh? We already... Now this is ominous. We've already gotten the ominous hatch in another deck? Unless I misread a card. How... The cards want to, the cards seem to want to play a bit of a horror terror on me, and we draw once again the 8 of Spades, the ominous hatch. And as we see this ominous hatch rising from the floor of our boat, we are filled with the memories of another journeyer before us, and we are very confused. These thoughts are not our own. These people, we have no idea who they are. Why was this person sailing on the river Styx? That's a horrible idea. What was he looking for? I can't believe he did that. And thankfully, those thoughts of someone that is not us, filling our mind, distract us from the hatch all day. And we find ourselves, unknowingly, as thanks, insulated from the horrific ghost ship that we saw several days ago and have seen hide nor hair of now. And we sail onward, finding the 5 of Diamonds. If I can find the 5 of Diamonds in the chart. A colorful sky. After a bad bout of rain and choppy water, the sky is finally clear and a brilliant rainbow forms. You know this is a good omen. If the Deep Hunter has arrived, move it 1 card away from your marker. So we spent as much time away from the hatch as we could, and throughout that day, though admittedly we did hardly notice it, thanks to the memories of someone else invading our mind, we still had to perform our duties through a thick, driving rain. And even despite this rain, we were preoccupied. So when we look up and find that the rain has passed and a glowing rainbow fills our vision, we feel just that little bit more heartened that our journey is going to go well. And we sail on to find the 4 of Clubs. A tense calm. The water here is completely still. This wouldn't strike you as odd, but you gradually notice it's too still. Even your boat won't create a ripple. You watch a fisher bird dive below the seamless water
leaving no sign it ever broke the surface. It does not return. You feel uneasy here. And indeed, just like the prompt told us here, we sail on, and as we crest over a large wave, our boat drops so suddenly. We grab at the wheel, knuckles white with the strain as everything jumps with the force of us hitting this water. And behind us, this cresting wave seems to just very suddenly, sharply drop off. And indeed, the waves that are coming from one direction entirely just plateau off down into this completely flat, still water. It is a circle 3 times the size of our boat, and for a long time we sit there unheeding of the fact that we have an engine to get out of here with, because these waves seem to form almost cavern walls around us as the squall rages on. A bird seems to spy this one point of respite in the lake and dives down in search of a fish, only to find that as it goes under the water, its little feet do a couple little kicks to get further under the water, and a few bubbles rise, and it's just gone. Our blood runs cold at the thought of where or when this bird could have gone, and we realize that we probably should get out of here as soon as possible. The roar of our engine breaks the tense calm that fills the air around us, and we find the 4 of diamonds. Temperature drop. You wake up to find the water around your vessel has completely frozen, locking you in place. The air stings with an unforgiving chill, and the sky is clouded over in white. You spend a few hours simply waiting for the thaw to come. Eventually, the glinting ice recedes into the water, leaving no sign it ever existed. If the deep hunter has arrived, move it 2 cards closer to your marker. We rise from our slumber and realize that our breath plumes in front of our face. It's midsummer. This makes no sense. Thankfully, rummaging around in a few chests that previous owners of this boat left around, we find there is a series of winter equipment, and we bundle up, looking around in confusion at ice that seems to have completely ensconced our boat overnight. It has grown perfectly to suit the hull shape as we bob in the water. There are a few stray spikes rising from the ice in the distance as the pressure of the water freezing has jostled itself up into little fingers reaching toward the sky. And worst of all, there is slow, drifting snow falling over the ice, and a biting wind chills our bones all of a sudden, and we jump as if struck and rush back into the cabin, cranking up the small space heater, hoping that it does not draw too much power from the generator, and we hope to wait it out. It takes all day, but the ice eventually bobs away, and we sail onward, confused, cold, and concerned. And there we find the Queen of Diamonds. In front of you, the surface of the water is broken by a great curved shape, the hull of a boat, turned upside down and weathered with age. You can see what look like faint, watery handprints down the side. It's best not to question it. You decide here is a good place as any to cast your net. You dredge up something unassuming and perfectly dry. Write down what that item is on your cargo list.
As we're sailing along, the horizon is suddenly broken by this curved form. And we approach it slowly, carefully, closely, eyeing what this could be, and eventually it resolves as we move closer. It resolves into the form of a hull of a boat. There is a name half obscured beneath the waterline, and from that name there are a series of wet, painted handprints. Or there are a series of painted handprints that have water slowly dripping out of them. Despite our better judgment, we cast the net in hopes that we don't catch whatever was placing those handprints, and instead we fish up a small. What's the word I'm looking for here? I'm thinking of a very specific thing. I can't think of the thing I was thinking of. So we fish up a small cork bobber, essentially. It is completely bone dry, unlike everything else around it in the net. And something about knowing that the cork probably should have soaked up a great deal of water under there makes it all the more chilling realizing that it's completely dry. So, now we need to put that in our cargo list. Cargo list. Extinct. Observed log. It used to be a mast. Strangely dry cork bobber. Now we have 2 items. Yay! Hooray! Looming behind us, the dim green glow of the crow's nest catches our eye in a moment where we are making sure the engine is running correctly. We realize that we are still assailed by this ghost boat, but we put it out of our mind as we approach the 10 of Hearts. If the PDF will scroll. Again, this one, I think this would be a lot. I would have a little bit more fun if I wouldn't have to scroll so much and I could just flip through a physical book. Anyway, as evening starts to fall, a faint glow from around the water catches you and catches your attention. It takes you a few moments to realize the light originates not from below the algae-covered surface of the lake, but from the algae itself. Bioluminescent constellations of tiny life blossom around your boat, keeping you company as the hours pass. Trusting their silent presence, you cast the net. Indeed, our eyes caught on the glowing crow's nest for a long moment, but we put it out of our mind, only to find that that as we were sailing along, there was a distant glow in front of us. We held our breath in horror that the ghost ship that's been chasing us had somehow managed to maneuver around ahead of us. But instead, as we approach, we realize that it is just small clumps of glowing algae. They glow a dim green that is a bit reminiscent of the ghost ship. But as they're bobbing along, we feel compelled to dredge up something new. And indeed, after we cast our net and haul it out of the lake, we find something fragile and intricate. As we haul it up onto the deck, we feel confusion suffuse our mind. This teapot is so intricate and yet so untouched by the situation it's in. It's not perfectly dry. It still drips a little bit of water, but the various filigree that coats this teapot looks like it was hand painted yesterday. It looks flawless, and it is a almost perfect depiction
of a place that we feel like we should know, but the memory won't come. So, plus intricate filigree teapot. And we sail onward to find. Oh, please let that be a king. Yes! We have we have 3 items, so we need to keep sailing. But we find the dock that will let us leave here. But we know that we are not ready to we're not quite ready to leave here yet. We've not found what we needed, and so we sail onward. The Jack of Diamonds. Clubs. Come on, let me scroll. The water bubbles up into a thick foam with no discernible cause. You feel no ripples of boiling heat and no giant aquatic beasts engaged in a thrashing battle, so you decide to cast your net. Yeah. Hoping to get that line wedge. So, the water riles beneath us, and we realize that a current of that magnitude isn't stirred up by nothing. And so we hopefully cast our net and find something small and useful. Unlike the large stone bowl and the small fist-sized chunk of metal that the last person here found, we simply find a small working compass. It spins once, twice as we hold it up, and then points back toward the docks we just left. So now we have an intricate filigree teapot, a compass that always points the way out, a strangely dry cork bobber, and an extinct log that used to be a mast. And so we sail on, hoping that we find another item that will let us out of here. Let's see if the 2 of spades has that for us, shall we? A wall of water. You see it coming in the distance. A giant wave many times taller than your boat is long. You know instantly there's no outrunning this. You wait and brace yourself as the enormous wave lifts you up and bears you down. Water drenches your face and your deck, but you make it through alive. If the deep hunter has arrived, move it 1 card away from your marker. We are picked up and tossed by this colossal wave that, honestly, judging from the direction that it came, seems to have finally worked its way around that place of unnatural stillness. And so all of that energy built up finally releases like a giant punch and bears us up and over a massive volume of water to a place we've already been. And so we sail on to find the 7 hearts. Though there is no shore in sight, in this part of the ring waste, treetops spring up from the water and form a forest ceiling. The trunks are tall, straight, and smooth, with a gray tinge to their bark. The leaves are a deep green. The reflections dapple the water below. Colorful beetles dot the trees, and a few even fly over your ship as you pass. This peaceful grove on the water grants you passage. You thank it as you exit. We are thrown by this wave. The deep hunter has arrived. If the deep hunter has arrived, move it one card away from your marker, as I've done. As we're thrown by this wave, we settle perfectly between two large trees that have seem to have grown into each other at a time long past, and then continued to grow upward. And we find ourselves buoyed through. Our engine has stalled from the wall of water flooding it, but indeed, it doesn't take us long to remove the water from the engine, but the leftover momentum from that wave still lets us bob through silently. This strange forest rising out of the water, and one of the beetles even lands on our outstretched finger for a long moment. We smile, and it flutters off as we leave the grove and sail on, breathing a sigh of relief at that moment of serenity, and find the 9 of clubs. Incomprehensible architecture. In the far distance, a castle builds itself upon the water's upon the water's surface, towers and ramparts stretching up out of thin air. You watch as it rises, folds in on itself, rises again, towers in the sky, and then fades into nothing. You figure it was probably a mirage. Probably. We sail on past that. Improbable castle, seeming to wave and distort and grow in on itself. The buttresses extending for a moment from nothing, and then from an endless number of towers, and then nothing again, and then the buttresses themselves are gone, but the central tower extends higher and higher with nothing beneath it. And as we're trying to process just where in the world is this castle, and why is it extending out of the water in this way, it makes no sense, we find the Jack of Clubs. A purple spiral swirls through the area ahead of you, too bright and confident in its color to be the distorted stain of blood in the water. Crates of broken bottles and loose cups bob in the water nearby, hinting at either feast or treachery. Unsettled, you cast your net. You dredge up something potent and tempting. Write down what that is. Like the prompt suggests, we think as we come upon this particular dark purple stain in the water that the ghost boat has been hunting for some kind of ghost meat. But indeed, it is not blood that fills the water, but instead just wine. Bottles, casks, so much wine that there must have been a shipment through here that got left astray. Let's see if we can dredge up a little bit of it ourselves, And we cast down the net and find something potent and tempting. I don't want to go for a very... the obvious play here is a bottle of very potent wine. Let's go something a little esoteric here. We fish out of the water an airtight container that hisses as we open it, and we find within that airtight container there is a series of fireworks. They're clearly very powerful. If we could get them to be stable on the deck, they'd be quite beautiful. We could see them miles in the air, and everyone around could see them. And that's very tempting, but unfortunately also tempting. It would also be tempting to the ghost ship that's breathing down our neck. And so we know that it is probably not the best idea to go firing them off. So, tempted as we are, you'll have to resist the allure of these fireworks for now. We realize very suddenly that something about the items that we have may find us a way out, and so we wheel the boat about and immediately start pushing toward our goal, and sail for a little while, finding the Jack of Spades as the way out looms on the horizon. This night you have a wonderful dream. Peoples whose faces you almost remember smile warmly at you, thanking you for where you are and who you are. An orchestra plays music that turns into a choir of wind chimes, and you dance in a place without water. When you wake up, the dream blurs in your mind, but you still feel the warmth. You cast your net and dredge up something sturdy and well used. And indeed, despite the haze of this dream filling our mind, we're so sure that it was someone congratulating us on something we'd done, something we had managed to accomplish, something that was worthy of celebration, something perhaps worthy of all that wine we sailed by. And we dredge up a very sturdy gold band. It's clearly not just gold, given by the fact that it is sturdy, but it looks like it is a simple gold band, and it looks like it has been passed down generation after generation from one person to another throughout a family. Each scratch and ding telling a story, and some of those stories hidden by the thin green patina that has grown over this ring through the years of it being through the presumably years of it being in this lake. And we come up over the rise and find that the way out looms large in our vision. The cursed vessel bearing down on us. A shanty of the ghost of a shanty filling our ears as we pull toward a return. You remember now, finally. These items, all of them, are yours, lost in the ring waste long ago. You've come to bring them home. Firstly, we slip the ring onto our finger and find that it fits perfectly, unlike the ring I was using as a prop. We find that it fits perfectly. As we close our hand, we remember the person's hand that it had held for so many years, and smile. And indeed, as we're looking at the fireworks, sealed in their little airtight container. Sorry, Magnus is trying to crinkle its bag, and I don't want that to happen while I'm talking. Sealed in their airtight container, we see a faded scrawl of a name that we know to be our own. And the compass that wheels around slowly as we step onto the dock to leave the ring waste, slowly wheels around to point true north, reminds us of our time spent in the wilderness, orienteering ourselves, because it's fun to get lost and find your way back. The intricate filigree teapot rattles in our bag, and we realize this was a hand-painted gift that we had made ourselves for our partner. They had described a very specific scene from a novel they loved growing up, and we had painted it on this teapot for them. And we were very gladdened to have it back. The cork bobber, as we hold it up to the light, it catches a little glint, and we realize that there's a thin hunk of fishing line through it, and it's just a much beloved piece of lucky fishing tackle. And last but not least, this preserved log that used to be amassed. It takes this story a long time to resolve in our mind, for it is tied to something that we had to leave on the boat. We didn't have any way to bring a whole log with us. Uh, and so this story takes a little longer to resolve in our minds, but eventually it becomes clear that uh, that mast was described in an old family story from many generations back on our way over the ocean from the homeland to where we are now. This boat was almost lost at sea, and indeed lost its mast of this tree that was made of this tree that was already dwindling at the time, but is now to a modern eye completely impossible to find. And we smile, reassured by retaining our grasp on our own personal history, and walk away from the ring waste, satisfied that we are ourselves once more, and hoping that the people we left behind aren't too miffed that we took some. Anyway, that, my friends, has been Dredge. After 2 games of it, I really like it. I think we have stumbled onto a much more. In the second game, I think I was unintentionally picking much more optimal movements, so we were not losing quite so many items in the process of sailing about. I think if you're very clever about how you apply these prompts, you can play this an unlimited number of times. I think the variance of I really like the variance of what's chasing you based on which king you hit first. That really adds a nice randomized like another layer of randomness on top of the randomness of shuffling the kings into the deck for the board. I think some of these prompts are a little too detailed. They kind of which is a shame because they're really well written, but some of these prompts are a little too detailed for my taste. I kind of was tripping over some of the setup they were giving me. I think I'm just used to a little thinner prompts, such that I was trying to, give them a lead-in without reading the prompt, and then that lead-in that I was giving was immediately contradicted by the lead-in that the prompt gives me. So, you all knowing that these prompts have good lead-ins may trip over that a little less. My issue is that usually my approach to something like that would be, oh yes, just do the roll of dice to have different chunks of the prompt change so they're smaller. But there's not really a way to do that here. There's not really any mechanical, unless you just want to sit there and just roll a die to make parts of the prompt optional. There's not really a way to roll that in, unless you add a whole new mechanic of oh yes, you have this many items, so you have this many chances to choose your action or something. But overall, I really liked Dredge. I think it was a really good series of prompts. I think we told some fun stories with it. I really, really like the antagonistic force not showing up until later in the game. You can kind of, if you're lucky, have a good few turns to build up initially. That's a really good idea, and if I ever write a Carta game, I might steal it. But anyway, I really like, in general, these Carta games. I like them a lot. There's a reason I've been playing a lot of them. They're very fun. I will never get over the shuffle a deck of cards and build your own board. That's so fun. It's so much more active and interesting than just drawing cards out of a deck. Not to disparage drawing cards out of a deck. Some of the best stories in this show have come out of drawing cards out of a deck, but it feels much more active. It feels like I'm playing a game rather than drawing cards for tarot or something. Anyway, I had a lot of fun playing this. I'm gonna call it a night. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I hope you had a good TP. Local man tries to have an outro and flubs. I hope you had a good TTRPG time tonight, and we'll see you Friday for paper cuts, and Monday for more of this. Night, everybody.